Can you believe that? The big story for today. We've talked about aliens. We've talked about Satan. We've talked about hell. We've talked about all the things, cryptids, you name it. But today we get to dive into a subject I actually don't know hardly anything about, but the car wizard does because he's intimately connected to the subject. And that is Freemasons.
When I reveal this information to you, you're going to say, can you believe that? After watching all these videos of Car Wizard talking about cars all this time, I never knew he was an ex-Freemason and an ex-Knights Templar.
Wait, you double dipped?
Can you believe that, Tommy?
I didn't know you double dipped.
Yes, well, you have to start with one to get to the others. First, I'll give a little story and then how my walk into Freemasonry ended, and then I'll explain the process, which I hope no one comes in a dark alley and stabs me.
I mean, I can promise I'm not going to, but I don't know about your ex-brothers.
Yeah, I'm not going to reveal anything crazy like that, but every small town in America has what's called a Blue Lodge. It's the original, like the base level of Freemasonry. I joined through there and went through all different paths, and I got to a point where I was kind of far into it, and I realized that my Christian path that I was on kind of went by the wayside, and Freemasonry kind of took over. I realized for myself, this isn't for everyone. Freemasonry can be great for some people, but for me personally, I decided I had to get out.
Coming through! Can't throw me out. My father's a member. I'm in.
Okay, homie, you're in.
Now, how does it work? You can't just walk down, knock on the door to a Freemason lodge and say, hey, I'd like to join. You have to know someone who is one, and they need to recommend you to the lodge. They'll come into your house, they'll visit you, they'll talk with you, and then finally they decide maybe yes or no. And if they decide yes, then starts your entrance into Freemasonry. You start out with the Blue Lodge, which has the first 3 degrees of Masonry. That's all that happens within the Blue Lodge. That is the core of all Freemasonry. Every Shriner, every Knights Templar, every Scottish Rite person out there has a base Blue Lodge. Without that membership, you cannot expand out into the others. So that's kind of how you get into it.
So it's like a pyramid scheme.
Oh,
I'm kidding.
I don't know if it's a Ponzi scheme or pyramid scheme, but
you buy in here, but then slowly you got to work your way up the ranks.
But right, you can't just walk up and say, sign me up. That's kind of not the way it works.
Like, what is the benefit or what is the mission statement that you're told when you come in? Like being a Teamster where you have like a possible pension down the road? Or is it more of like, hey, you're going to be involved in community service? And what is the kind of idea that they get you with these blue boxes?
Well, at the Blue Lodge, there's kind of a dual thing going on. Number one is charity. You're helping people. You're doing charity drives. You're raising money. It's also a personal journey you're on, which what they call for more light. You go to higher degrees. You're still searching for the illumination, I guess you want to call it. But it's kind of both happening at the same time is how that works. It's a journey that you're on through Masonry and also getting involved in the community and helping others.
Yeah, I just was curious because what is the draw to people? Because I know that Masonry, at least from my experience, it's everyone from plumbers to contractors to IT workers. I mean, it's really a very broad group of men usually that go in and do this. And I believe it's exclusively male still, right?
Yes, they have some female kind of offshoots or whatever you want to call it, but the Freemasonry itself is predominantly or only male. That's correct. The reason why most people join is intrigue and mystery. What is this thing? I've heard about all of it. And like you just mentioned a minute ago, there's all different walks of life. Astronauts, governors, presidents, George Washington. A lot of people have been Masons. Back in the 1800s, Masonry was huge. Now they're struggling to find attendance. Young people aren't into it or whatever. But back to the order of things. You start out in your Blue Lodge. You get up to the 3rd degree. From there, you need to choose a path. There's 3. There's Scottish Rite, the York Rite, and the Knights Templar. From there, you can branch up to 12th degree, 13th degree, and 33rd degree, which is the highest level achieved. There's also the shrine, which is where I think you would achieve that 33rd degree. You think you're getting this illumination of some unknown special knowledge or something that no one else knows, but you really never get it. It's just constantly like the old carrot in front of the nose thing, just led deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And for me, I got pretty far into it and I felt uncomfortable and decided I didn't want to forfeit my religious beliefs of salvation. And I thought that if I continued deeper into it, I might possibly do that. So I got out of it. Shame on me, I'm a bad guy. I dropped out or whatever. A clandestine Mason is what they call me now. They wouldn't consider me a brother. I'm sure you have more questions. What are they, Tommy?
Oh my God, just there's so many. So can I ask you how far up the ladder you got?
Yeah, I got to 32nd degree, which would be...
Wait, you're just one shy of the top.
There were some things during the initiation ceremony of Knights Templar that I found very far off from the walk with Christ. I went ahead and went through with it, and sometimes I feel that I regret it. I just decided at some point I have to get out of this because I'm not all the way through as far as you can go, and it's already getting really weird. So that's how that happened. So what other questions you got, Tommy?
Well, I mean, I'm fascinated because I know you can't talk about the rituals, but I can tell you what I have heard from people about the rituals, and maybe you can just shake your head or something. Because
Okay.
I mean, if I'm understanding correctly, it seems as though a lot of this Hermetic occultism has made its way into modern day Freemasonry with the idea of like the black and white pillar and the use of gold and specific movements in the room and specific scents. And I know some of that is also tied to Solomonian magic, which is King Solomon who tamed the jinn and the demons in order to use them to build the Temple of Solomon. But how much of what you experience, if you can say it all or just nod, do you think was influenced by Solomonian beliefs as well as like some of this Hermetic occultism, Egyptian inspired occultism? Is there some of that?
It's really a conglomeration of a ton of different religions and things. You can Google how does a Masonic ceremony take place? How do you open a lodge? That's all on the internet. I'm not sharing anything that's not out there. But definitely the way you have a meeting is very much in the way of King Solomon's temple. It's set up like King Solomon's temple was, where the different officers of the lodge are set. It's just like, we're supposedly like King Solomon's temple. There's a lot of emphasis, huge emphasis on King Solomon's temple.
Yeah. During the time of S.L. McGregor Mathers and Aleister Crowley's magical workings, it seemed like a lot of their work seemed to bleed into Freemasonry because they also were Freemasons. So I find it really interesting how many things get tied together. And just as an empathy thing for you, Wizard, knowing that you're just a devout Christian, I can imagine how uncomfortable that made you.
It made me very uncomfortable. And I'll share another thing. This is something that's also easily Googleable, I guess you would call that. We see the symbol of a Mason. It's a square and a compass. And what's in the center? Have you ever paid attention? What's in the center, Tommy?
It's the I, right?
No? Well, there is
a
an
G.
I.
G.
The G, yes.
What's the G?
It's like geometry or the one true God or God. And when you have a meeting, it's supposed to be multiple brothers from different walks of life, different religions, and that G represents whoever that God is in your life. And I kind of questioned that to one of the Masons one day when I was still a Mason. I was like, I can sit in a room and across from me can be an occultist or a Satanist. And the other part of the room is a Muslim and I'm a Christian, which I'm not saying one is greater than the other, but they're protracting that this G is that we're all together worshiping the same entity. I was like, no, because I don't want to be in the room where that guy is basically, in his mind, placing worship towards Satan. And I am worshiping towards Christ, and we're doing this together. So that started to kind of gnaw at me a little bit. But foolishly, I continued on and went deeper into it. But that was the first sign I got that this may not be where I'm supposed to be.
If I can, in a friendly way, push back on what you said, if you believe that there's only one creator of all things, it doesn't necessarily matter what we call it as humans. It's the divine force that created all things.
Mhm.
So I can understand their perspective of saying that, like, yeah, that G understandably being God makes sense. Now you're right, like a Satanist is not worshiping God. If you go a couple videos back here, you'll hear our entire discussion about Satan. But essentially, like, yeah, in that sense, it's different. You know, again, I'm not here to insult anyone's faith. I absolutely believe everyone has the right to believe in whatever they want. And I would never tell you, Wizard, that what you're believing in or what you're saying is wrong. You know, I'm glad that you trusted your gut and were able to get yourself out of that situation because it did not align with you spiritually. And
Right.
any of us can do is whatever our spiritual path, just stay true to it. Don't alter it and don't change it, because if you're changing and altering your path, that just means your faith isn't that strong.
Yeah, very likely. So another thing I'll talk about too, the Knights Templar today are very Masonically influenced. It's been tailored and changed, and the rituals, the procedures actually from occultism have been added into that.
Oh, interesting.
So the Knight Templar that you see back in the day wouldn't be knowledgeable of what's going on with Knights Templar in the Masonic world. They're separate. They're just taking an old way of life and kind of shaping it and molding it into what they want it to be and calling themselves now a Knight Templar.
Well, and for people who don't know, the Knights Templar were a group of Christians during the Crusade period that took up arms against the Muslims, and they also believed in the saints. And one of their patron saints was Jean Baptiste, who was beheaded. And it's believed that they actually had the relic of Jean Baptiste's head somewhere. So if that's any indication, it's a little weird, but whatever, you know, but supposedly that's what the Pope got upset with them about, was they were sort of worshiping the false idol of Jean the Baptist's head. And that's why the church colluded with French aristocracy and some other big players back in the day to have all of the Templars wiped out, which is where Friday the 13th comes in, because Friday the 13th was the date that they sent military in to kill the Knights Templar, or the Knight Templars, and
Right.
took out almost all of them. And they fled and hid their treasures as best they could and drove them into sort of like underground hiding.
There's a lot of feats that the Knights Templar accomplished. They basically laid the foundation or groundwork for the modern banking system, where you could leave money with them, like gold coins, and they would write you basically like a check or something, and you could take that to another country, to another Knights Templar base, and they would give you that kind of money that was yours back, maybe with a fee or something. Obviously, there had to have been a fee.
Yeah, a little off the top.
Yeah. So they were doing those types of things back then, but it's symbolic now. It's not like they're actually going out and doing and fighting for Christ and doing those things anymore. The basis of Masonry actually goes back to actual physical masonry, like blocks and things. They had knowledge of geometric shapes, doing things, making buildings perfect. But a Freemason today is not a Mason who puts bricks and builds things. Like, it's just kind of a symbolic, a lot of symbolism in Masonry. Also in a lodge, when you open up a meeting, you have a lodge, there's the square and compass on top of the book, a main book that the lodge chooses to be the representative of that group or whatever. Our lodge had a Bible, a Holy Bible. That again was, to me, was very, it flies in the face of what they were trying to do. The central entity that anyone can believe. It could be Satan, it could be God, it could be Muhammad, it could be this or that. Whoever it is to you is fine.
Yeah.
It just got convoluted. I was like, this is chaos. This kind of doesn't work for me. So what is going on here? It was really weird.
Yeah, what's a Buddhist going to do if he goes in there and
Yeah.
is like, well, I'm just joining because I want to do community service. And
I mean,
then
Buddhist,
like, here's a Bible. You know?
I don't know, man. It was really, really strange. But there's one key thing here. Some of the people that laid the groundwork of how the rituals are performed were occultists and Satanists.
Yeah. There's stuff verbatim out of what I've heard that is taken straight from S.L. McGregor Mathers and Aleister Crowley, who are known occultists. I won't say they're Satanists, but they're definitely known occultists.
So those kind of people were involved with writing the operation of the whole organization, basically how it works, all the symbolism, all the secrecy, all the different things that are going on is basically based on those core people. So that's where it can get pretty scary, I think.
Yeah, if that's not your bag, then by all means, like, don't do it. Again, speaking as somebody who's not from your side of the aisle on this, Wizard, I always look at occultism as not something to be feared, but something to be respected. And
Yeah.
so if you're going to get involved in ritual magic, all I can say to you is read the texts very carefully before you perform any ritual. Read why certain things are said or done and understand where it's coming from, because it's just better to know exactly why things were put into certain rituals. So any people out there who are interested in the occult, you can comment below, or you can, find us, shoot us a message, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Because I don't want occultism to be a boogeyman, because I think it can be done, I don't want to say properly, but it can be done with reverence and respect for the deities out there, or God itself. But I also understand that it's not for everybody, and I don't think everybody should do it. And for my Christian friends, I love you. For my Muslim friends, I love you. For my Buddhist friends, I love you. All my friends, I love you. Whatever you believe, like, just know that you are loved and that it's okay. And we do accept you for who we are. Just like Wizard accepts me for being a crazy occult guy who he gets on this with every week, and we talk. And, even if in some way he thinks I'm going to hell, which is very likely based on the conversation we had in that episode.
I don't make that call. I hope not. I really hope not, Tommy.
I hope not either.
And a lot of people have asked me, it's probably a question you may have too, is of the big word, the Illuminati.
Yeah, I was going to get to that, but I didn't want to press my luck too much.
That's something I never experienced. I never got that far into it. I can imagine you got to the 33rd degree and you've been in there long enough that maybe some doors open to a whole new realm. I believe it exists. I've never seen, I may have known members of it. I just didn't know they were Illuminati. But I would be led to believe, based on what I've experienced, that it is a true group or an organization. It really does exist. And if there are people in government, high places, CEOs of large companies, they want to be in powerful positions, they would probably have a group. But again, I've never met one knowingly, and I never became one. I never experienced anything with it.
Super interesting, Wizard. Thank you for sharing with us. Are you okay if we get some questions from our audience?
Sure, I'll answer them if I can.
Well, first question is from Brandy Maylor, and they ask, how are the Knights Templar tied to the Freemasons? Now, we kind of talked about this, but do you have any idea of how specifically this revitalization of Knights Templar ended up becoming part of the Freemason path?
It might have been some members of the original Knights Templar that were disbanded or whatever, and they kind of abandoned the old ways. And maybe they got into Masonry. I'm not sure of the whole history of it, but it was twisted, contorted, and changed. And some of the groundwork we just talked about was mixed together. Yeah. And they used the name Knights Templar, but it's not, like I mentioned, it's not the Knights Templar of the past.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Brandy, I hope we answered that question earlier as well. Next one, Patty Dreams 55. This has got to be a Wizard one. Yep, asking Wizard, aren't the Masons just an extension of the Illuminati? We talked about this a little bit too, but you didn't find any ties when you were there, right?
Like I said, I believe they are tied, but if the vice versa is true, Illuminati would be an extension of Masonry. You start out as a Mason, and you can work your way up to that.
Well, there you go, Caddy Dreams. Hopefully that answers your question. Some of these names are really awesome. I love what people put down for their avatars. Haunted Alpaca 33. I mean, alpacas are pretty badass. They are. So a haunted one, I can't imagine. Yeah. Being a self-proclaimed occultist, what do you think about the rituals of Masonry? Self-proclaimed means that you don't necessarily believe me, but that's fair. Let's just we'll forego that for a second. I'm with Wizard. I think that some of these Hermetic occultists got involved in the Freemason path and started bringing in their ideas and thoughts and providing rituals, because you also have to remember, as part of being a secret society, a limited inclusion society, it kind of also helps to have these rituals because it makes the mystique so much more intriguing for people. And if they're like, oh, there's, you can't go in there because they do weird rituals and stuff. Well, everyone's going to be like, well, what kind of weird rituals are you doing? Like, let me see. And if there's some basis in prior occult knowledge, which occult just means hidden. So it's just bringing the hidden to light, which makes sense with what you said, Wizard, with the Masonry's whole goal is like finding the light. That totally tracks with most occultism, most modern occultism. So there's my short answer as a so-called occultist. Thank you very much. I hope you weren't digging at me, but if you were, it's fine because like I've got nothing to hide and it doesn't matter. But anyway, if you guys have questions, you guys and gals out there have questions, go ahead, hit the comment section, write your questions. And if you enjoy what we're doing, please give a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps push us. And, otherwise we're still going to keep doing this because it's fun, unless the Illuminati want to recruit me and make me a billionaire.
They might.
I doubt it. I'm not really important enough and I don't dress the part. So.
But here's a question for you. If you serve Illuminati, based on this being an occultist-based thing, possibly with Masonry, and they make you a billionaire, who's behind it all? Who are you serving?
That's a good question. And unfortunately, I'm the type of person that would turn down $1 billion if I didn't think it was coming from the right source. So I don't know, maybe I'm the dumb one, but as much as I may not follow the Christian tradition, I do believe that there is penance to pay in the afterlife, and I don't want to be on the bad side of that,
But there's some people that don't value their soul, so the money's cool.
Yeah, I like mine. I'm going to keep it.
Yeah, so, that's the old idea, sold your soul. 5 different ways to end up at the same result.
Yeah, I don't want to get on any of those paths. So we're going to keep making these videos instead. We're going to have fun with you all. Can you believe that? Here we go. This was episode 8?
Yes.
8. Oh my God, we've done 8 of these already.
8 episodes. Hopefully there's 800 more to go. On the Car Wizard channel, we have approached 800 videos, Tommy.
Whoa. Well, if you like cars and say you came to this channel because you just found us, happenstance, Car Wizard's channel is amazing. He's got so much amazing knowledge. So if you have any automotive questions or curiosities, his channel is the channel to go to, Car Wizard channel.
Thanks for that. So yeah, that's what we hope to have you guys saying on every episode. Maybe if you're watching with a friend or a loved one, to look at each other and go, can you believe that? That's what we're doing. We're revealing these secrets and all these things. We're talking about them. And again, we don't leave at the end of an episode angry with one another. We're not fighting. We're not saying curse words or calling each other names. We leave the same way we entered, with open eyes, open ears, and hopefully we can all learn something together. So definitely hit the subscribe button here. There's many more cool videos to come. There's so many more topics we're going to talk about. It's going to go on for a long time, guys. Thanks for watching.